Morris Mott grew up in Creelman, Saskatchewan, playing hockey in the winter and baseball in the summer. Had quite a hockey career, so why don't we start there very briefly. Tell me about your hockey career, including the Canadian national team.
Well, I was in Creelman. That was all my minor hockey was in Creelman. I went into Weyburn in 1961. They started the Weyburn Red Wings. This is before the Tier 1, Tier 2 arrangements. This is every province had its own junior league. And I made their junior B team in Weyburn, and then I eventually played junior A. And then in 1965, I played with the national team in Winnipeg for 5 years, or 5 winters. And then after that, I went to Queen's University for 2 years, and I played there. But then the World Hockey came in 1972, so that made there was a bigger demand for players. So I got a chance to play with the California Seals of the NHL. They lost a lot of players to the World Hockey. And then I spent 3 years with the Seals, a little bit with their farm team in Salt Lake City, and then 1 year in Sweden. And then I came back to Winnipeg actually and played a year in what they call the Cash League, the Central Amateur Senior Hockey League, and then I was done as a player. And then I coached a bit after that, and I still played old timers hockey for a long time, but nothing serious.
This is not your first Hall of Fame induction.
No.
2002, you made it into the Saskatchewan Baseball Hall of Fame.
That's true. And I was a little surprised at that, to be honest with you, because I didn't play that long in Saskatchewan. I played all the time as a teenager into my early 20s, but when I was in Winnipeg, I went back home for a couple of years, and then I realized, boy, I would be better off budgeting my time, so I took a lot of my university classes in the summer, and that's what I started to do at about the age of 21, 22. But, I say this as kind of a joke, but it's also true. I was a good ball player by the standards of the small towns of southeastern Saskatchewan. The standard was low. And when we went in to play the city teams, we were in trouble. And we entered teams in the playdowns, the Saskatchewan baseball playdowns, maybe 6 times from Little League to Junior. And we would get thrashed every year by a team from Regina. Or one year I remember we went up to Saskatoon. I don't know why we had to go up there. It's 230 miles away. but we ended up in Saskatoon and we got beaten badly there. So, the city teams were always a cut above our teams. So I'm going to say that the reason I'm in the Saskatchewan Baseball Hall of Fame is that I was the best of a bad bunch.
Well, you've certainly earned your spot here in Manitoba, and let's start to talk about your Manitoba experience. You've got a pretty good track record with the Elmwood Giants.
Well, I just played the 1 year with them, and I mentioned that I'd kind of quit playing ball in the summer, but by 1980 I was done university, I was done playing hockey. I don't quite know how I made the connection with Elmwood. I can't remember if I approached them or they approached me, but I was married by that time. We didn't have any children, so I had a summer where I could concentrate on it. I really enjoyed the year with the Elmwood Giants. I was just an average player by that time. I'd lost all my running speed. I was in my mid-30s by then, and I couldn't run. I noticed that, that was the one thing I noticed had dropped off a lot. But the Elmwood Giants have always treated me since then as one of their alumni, So I'm grateful for that. They've all, like even tonight in the program, you'll notice there's a congratulatory message to the Elmwood Giants juniors teams that's going on, and also to me, because I'm one of their gang, and that's very satisfying.
That's very typical also of particularly in the prairies, hockey and baseball organizations, isn't it? That feeling of community, of family.
Yeah, it is. And I'm moving now to the whole experience with this Baseball Hall of Fame here. What you're saying is exactly appropriate to that, because I was asked to go on the Hall of Fame by Gladwin Scott. I thought the purposes of the organization were worthwhile, so I joined it for that reason. But why do you stay on for 10 or 12 or 15 years? It's just because you feel like part of a team, that's doing something worthwhile, and you enjoy laughter, and you enjoy the meetings and the stupid phone calls, and all the things that groups of people do when they get along. And that's what's happened to me. I'm still a director of the Hall of Fame a quarter of a century later.
Let me provide you with a little bit of a challenge.
Okay.
As an organizer and as one of the driving forces behind the Hall, and there are several as you mentioned, how important, or perhaps even why, is the Hall important to baseball?
Okay, good question. I would say two reasons. It gives the baseball people a chance to get together once every year. I'm sure some of them get together other times, but the older baseball people get together once a year to just relive baseball stories and talk about baseball and reconnect with the people that they've met. It's mostly older people that come. That's the way it always is with Halls of Fame. And then the second thing is to celebrate the achievements of the better umpires, the better players, the better teams, the better coaches, all the different roles that you find around a ball diamond. We are trying to recognize those people and bring them to the attention of the whole province, really, and that's why it's important. And I think the Hall of Fame, if you look at our inductees and our teams, our individuals and our teams, most of them are from the 40s, 50s, 60s, when the smaller towns all had a ball. Even school districts sometimes had a very good ball team, and those they make up the majority of our inductees. And they look at Cardale tonight. They're going to have more than 50 people here from Cardale, which is, how far is it away? It's about maybe 3.5 hours. That's a big deal for them to get together with their friends and celebrate their achievements, but also get back together again.
What would you say then, again, as an organizer and a builder of the Hall of Fame and baseball in Manitoba, what are the challenges in the road ahead?
Well, the challenges are, I think, to identify it's hard. It's a little harder now to identify who the excellent players are and the excellent umpires. I think maybe in Winnipeg it's not as hard where you live, because there's kind of tiered teams and players. But in the rural areas now, you have to go farther to get your players, and we don't have a AAA level anymore in the rural area, so you just got to work harder to identify the excellence that once jumped out at you.
I also want to ask about baseball in general, and baseball as a part of your life. How important has that been to you?
Well, I was raised in a small town, very similar to many small towns, agricultural service center. Hockey and baseball were the only games we had teams for. We played a little soccer at school. We played rugby at school. We didn't have school teams. We didn't have gymnasia yet in those smaller towns. I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. Baseball and hockey were our games. And these were the games that young boys, young teenagers, young men like me were supposed to try at least to be good at. And if we were, there was a real sense of accomplishment to be able to play at whatever the highest level was in our area. And for me, I would put the hockey and baseball together and say it's been a source of a lot of self-knowledge, a lot of awareness of what my strengths and weaknesses were. And then it was also, a sense of accomplishment in the community. That I've often said I wasn't much help around my dad's farm. So, and people in the town, I don't know, sometimes you wonder why would they put up with me riding my bike around the streets and all. It's because I could beat Fillmore, right? And Stoughton and all in both hockey and baseball. And I think the biggest thing in that is it's just a place to learn about your own qualities. that's been important to me.
Morris Mott, 2022 inductee, Manitoba Baseball Hall of Fame.
Okay, thanks, Ron. Very nice.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Great job.